Today, we're here for episode 4 of the Winning Season podcast, and I'm here with Marcus Kennedy. Uh, strong leadership is critical to a successful business or organization. Today, we'll focus on intrusive leadership and how making personable connections increases your effectiveness of motivating your team members. All right, so I'm Elwood Lane, host of the podcast, and again, I'm here with our special guest, Marcus Kennedy, founder of the Kennedy Leadership Group and author of the book Intrusive Leadership. All right, so what began your journey to champion intrusive leadership?
So, what began my journey is really a personal situation that happened to me. I was dealing with some emotional strain, some mental health challenges, I would say, in relation to my reaction to the George Floyd murder.
Wow.
Um, and in conjunction with the Breonna Taylor murder, the Ahmaud Arbery situation, a number of things that was happening with police brutality and the racial tension that was going on during the summer of 2020. And I found myself in a place where I simply was at the job, but I wasn't the best version of myself because I was thinking about something that was happening outside of the job.
Okay.
I happened to be working in Houston and I happened to drive past where George Floyd is buried every single day. And
Wow.
so I found myself in a place where I was simply not okay. And even though I was at work, acting like everything was okay, I really needed someone to take a pause, notice that I was not myself, not truly at my best, and simply ask, how am I doing? To recognize me as a person, not as an employee,
Right.
and have a difficult but necessary conversation with me to make sure that I knew that I was seen as a whole person and valued and supported in my authentic self.
Right.
Because I did not get that, it kind of started a journey in understanding how sometimes this is missed in the workplace.
Right.
And I ended up writing an article about it. This term, intrusive leadership, is not a term that I came up with. I did not coin the term, it's been used for a while. But through my research, I ended up finding out that no one has actually defined it.
Right.
So I ended up defining it. I ended up writing a book about it, and it began a journey of presenting and talking about this leadership style.
Okay. So what think about different leadership styles? I try to see I see management. Uh, but intrusive leadership is definitely something even new to me. So can you explain to us exactly what intrusive leadership is? 'Cause I think it's definitely a cool thing to discuss.
Yes, definitely. So, intrusive leadership is a leadership style that uses intentional actions to inspire, motivate, develop, and support people by caring for the whole person through a trusting relationship that addresses professional as well as personal interests and concerns. So, what I gave you is the textbook definition of intrusive leadership that I actually came up with. But just to break it down a little bit, it is a leadership style that truly puts the person first.
Okay.
We talk a lot about how important it is to get to know someone and trying to lead them, right?
Right.
But a lot of times we say that, then we go right back to talking about the job.
Right.
So, this is a leadership style that is solely about getting to know your people, how you get to know your people, why you get to know your people, and
Right.
the impacts that you have when you are very intentional
Right.
about building a trusting relationship with someone,
Right.
making sure that they are valued as a whole person, right?
Right.
And that is what's key. is that every person, whether you're an engineer, whether you're a salesman, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a pilot,
Right.
you're a person, you're a husband, you're a father, you're a son, you're an uncle, sister, brother, all of these things. And the notion that what is going on in your personal life should never enter the workplace or impact you at the job is simply unsustainable.
Right.
That's not the way that things should be. We should never want someone that is working with us every single day to be going through trials and tribulations in their personal life
Right.
and think that the people that they spend so much time with
Right.
do not care about those things at all. So,
Yep.
this is a leadership style that really gets to the heart of getting to know someone, building up some trust, and making sure that people understand that they are valued as a whole person in their
Right.
authentic self.
Right. That sounds like a great cultural environment to have something like that in your leadership team. And so, can you tell us how do you think that this leadership style can help move an organization or a business forward?
So the impacts of this leadership style is really through the roof. I mean, when you truly get to know someone, you get to understand what their value sets are. You get to understand what motivates them. You
Right.
get to understand where they want to be in 5 or 10 years, right?
Right.
You get to also understand where their fears are, where their concerns are.
Right.
And so, as a leader, when you're trying to connect, when you're trying to motivate, it's really tough to do that if you don't truly know people in an intimate sense.
Right.
So, it increases your effectiveness as a leader, right?
Right.
Then, when you really think about the employee working in a space where they feel, emotionally safe,
Right.
that's a place that they're going to want to stay.
Right.
They're going to think about being in this emotionally safe space, working for someone that truly cares about them
Right.
when another opportunity goes to work someone else. So it
Right.
increases retention, right?
Right. It's
And
important.
there are plenty of studies that show that when um, employee satisfaction increases, then retention, workplace performance, all of these things also increase.
Right.
So, how can an organization not succeed or not improve when retention goes up,
Right.
employee satisfaction goes up, which relates to performance, right?
Right. I agree. I agree 100%. So that's one of the key things that I truly value leadership over sometimes management titles. I think management titles are important. I think they help structure the roles and people to understand exactly what the role for somebody is supposed to be. But without true leadership, intrusive leadership, and really, like I said, like you said, connecting with people and trying to find a way to uh, lead through example and connecting with people and tying that to the goal of what the organizational business is trying to do. Uh, I think it'll be very difficult to have a strong culture and keep that retention and really move that business or organization forward for a long term longevity situation. So, uh, can you give your viewpoint on leadership versus management?
Yeah, definitely. I talk a lot about the difference between leadership and management. Um, and I definitely want to communicate that for a organization to be successful, you need both.
Okay.
You have to have people that are able to manage, that
Right.
can understand policies, that can fill out a work schedule,
Right.
that can do hiring practices, that can develop task lists, things like that, project
Right.
management skills.
Right.
Management is very important to the success of a company,
Right.
but so is leadership. Leadership is those human skills, right?
Right.
How you communicate, how you motivate, how you develop. That is the leadership side, right? So, a couple of things, right? Managers, you know, they they want their idea to be right.
Right.
They want to be the smartest person in the room, right?
Right.
Whereas leaders, they just want the right idea to come forward. It
Right.
doesn't matter where it comes from. They just
Right.
want to make sure that the smartest person is in the room,
Right.
even if it's not them, right?
Right.
um, you can have a manager that understands the policies, right? That understands how to file a discrimination complaint or address it for someone. Managers can do that. Whereas leaders create a safe space where people feel comfortable filing a complaint, right?
Right.
Um, managing, doing performance evaluation is a management tool,
Right.
but you need a leader to actually provide someone feedback on how to improve their performance,
Right.
right? So
Right.
there, it's really I try to stay away from which one's better, right?
Right.
Which one is more critical, because they are both critical to the success of an organization.
Okay.
I just think oftentimes when we look at who we put in leadership positions
Right.
and why we put that person in a leadership position,
Right.
more times than not, it is because we are evaluating their management skills.
Right.
Just because someone is a good manager does not mean that they can actually be a great leader.
Right.
And then a lot of times, what are we holding that manager responsible for?
Right.
Most of the time, we hold them responsible for that management skills,
Right.
hoping that they also are exhibiting some leadership skills.
Right.
And those things, we organizations really need to take a look at, are they training up leaders
Right.
versus just managing? Are they promoting managers and expecting leadership to follow with it?
Right. Right. So I agree. I think that both are definitely critical in the organization. Yeah, definitely having roles is important. I definitely think that the leadership skills and actually having somebody to actually people to follow you is also important. So moving towards the leadership side of this token, has it been difficult or any pushback in your experience with trying to get people to really value this leadership term?
Yes. So I would say that obviously the term itself, intrusive leadership, right? When people do not actually know the definition of it, the term in itself can make people feel a little bit uncomfortable.
Right.
A lot of times when people have not been exposed to the term, they think that I'm talking about micromanaging or
Right.
someone that is overbearing, right?
Right.
Aggressive.
Right.
So the term, and trust me, I'm well aware, has a negative connotation. So that is something that I have to overcome
Right.
in teaching this leadership style.
Right.
But why do I keep using the term? It's because when you look at the actions that I'm telling leaders to take in building a trusting relationship with someone, being willing to have a difficult conversation, understand when someone might be going through something, and
Right.
simply ask them, hey, you're not at yourself. You're not the best version of yourself right now. You seem to
Right.
be a little bit off. Is there anything that's going on
Right.
that is
That's
bothering
powerful.
you? Right?
It's
When you
powerful.
look at those actions, there isn't a better term that describes those actions than the word intrusive.
Right.
So you can have a servant leader, right? You can have someone that makes sure that you have everything that you need at the job to be successful. They can serve you by making sure that you have all the training that you need, that you have the safety equipment that you need, that you have all the supplies that you need, right?
Hmm.
They can do all of those things, yet never take the time to truly know who you are,
Right.
right? So there are times that being intrusive, being a little bit meddlesome, being a little bit invasive is exactly what you need to do in order to connect, in order to potentially prevent someone from committing suicide. So
Mm.
that is why, even though I get pushback on the term, I still
Hmm.
choose to use it because I
Right.
think that it is appropriately titled.
Right.
Another area that I get pushback on is people say, hey, you can't really teach someone to care. You can't really teach someone to be this sort of individual. And I simply disagree, right? I didn't come out of the womb as a natural born pilot, right? But I learned how to fly.
Right.
Nobody comes and is just born to be a leader. They are People are called natural born leaders because they have life experiences that shaped their leadership style.
Mm.
You still learned how to be a leader,
Mm.
right?
I
And if
agree.
it was impossible to improve people's leadership skills, then there would be no need to have leadership courses all over the country. But we do. Why? Because you can improve someone's leadership skill through training, through discussions, through exposing them to things, different opinions, and different perspectives that they might not have ever had before,
Right.
right?
Yes.
My leadership style, my leadership capabilities are being sharpened every single day, right?
Mm.
So the idea that you can't teach someone to do this leadership style and connect, I just simply disagree. When you tell someone how important it is, when you tell and you give them the tools to do it, and as a organization, when you make sure that people are that when you make sure that they're aware that they are going to be held accountable for leadership, people are going to simply do it because they still want to be successful, right?
Right.
I think too many organizations, people know that whether they actually give a person feedback,
Hmm.
right? Whether they actually take the time to get to know someone, whether they actually take the time to build up trust with someone is not necessarily going to impact their own promotion.
Right.
So when they feel like they don't have to, yet they can still promote in the organization, you're going to have people that choose not to.
Right.
But if they know that they can't get that next promotion unless they do those things,
Right.
trust me, they'll do it.
Right. So I definitely agree. I think that again, leadership, intrusive leadership, I think it's very important. I think that people should definitely make it a part of their company culture. I think that if you definitely set that as a part of somebody's expectation, they're definitely more likely to take it seriously. Um, and I just like I said, there's just many benefits to that, and I definitely agree. And so if somebody wanted to step forward and say, okay, well, I have this business or I'm in this organization, how do you recommend them to start to incorporate um, some of these ideas of intrusive leadership so that you know they can start to see some of the benefits?
Yeah. So one thing I would say is step one, learn about it, right? Be a student of leadership. Read about it, right? Like as you mentioned, I wrote a book. Um, One of the reasons why I end up writing the book is because when I was doing my research on intrusive leadership, I ended up realizing that no one had written a book on it. No one had defined it. So If you want to be an intrusive leader, it's going to sound like a sales pitch, but what else do you do when you want to learn how to do something? You research, you read a textbook on it so you could figure out how to actually do it, the definitions of the principles. So, this is the textbook.
Right.
So, today, if you decide that you want to be an intrusive leader, then I would tell you that buy this book, research it. There's a couple of articles, but this book is going to break down the leadership style. It's going to give you examples of how to do it. It's going to show you the impacts. Now, I will tell you that it's not going to give you a how to guide, a step by step thing on how to be an intrusive leader. Why? Because it's a personal leadership style. How I connect with someone is going to be different than how you connect with someone. So, me simply telling you how I connect might not work for you, right? So, you have to take a time to figure out, hey, what are my strong suits? What are my weak areas? Um, Maybe learn some different things, learn some different perspectives, put yourself in some spaces where people are open to share, how they feel being in workspaces and part of the LGBTQ community, right? Learn about African American history, learn about Hispanic culture, learn, like, become a student of people. If you want to be the best leader for people, then you have to increase your knowledge about people, right? Once you do that and you want to actually start engaging people on a personal sense, how do you do that? You come to them authentically. You just simply say, hey, I read this book, heard this presentation about this leadership style. It got me reflecting about my own leadership style. And when I reflected on my own leadership style, I end up realizing that we've been working together for the past year, 2 years, and I never really took the time to truly get to know you, to get to know who you are outside the workplace. And I think that I might have failed to be the best leader for you because I didn't take the time to get to know you. And if you are okay with it, I would like to change moving forward. And I would like to get to know you better. So hopefully, I can, through learning more about you, I can be the best leader for you. You can simply start by that and start having a conversation and be transparent. Open up about yourself. If I'm going to ask someone about their life at home, I have to be willing to talk about my life at home, right?
Right.
If I'm going to ask someone about their kids, I need to be willing to talk about my kids.
Right.
And through that interaction, through that relationship, you start making steps on being an intrusive leader. So if you want to start being an intrusive leader, that is what I would tell you to do. Become a student of intrusive leadership. Read the book. Do some self evaluating. Know yourself, right?
Right.
And then have the courage to simply go to your employees and start talking and having conversations with them about them, not the work, but about the worker.
Wow. Very powerful. Definitely got a good introduction, good explanation on intrusive leadership. Uh, I would definitely say this is something that I would take forward for myself, but I think that everybody listening to this podcast should also take this as something that will definitely help them understand how to move their organization or business forward, create a very inviting culture, a culture that will be very productive, a culture that will feel inclusive, a culture that will maintain or have a stronger shot of keeping their employees around and just keeping a more vibrant environment for their uh, situation. So, how can we find your book, Marcus?
So the book is on Amazon. If you just simply search Amazon for intrusive leadership, the book will pop up. Once again, it is the only book solely focused on this leadership style. It is the only book that has an actual definition for this leadership style. So it is on Amazon. You can always go to my website, which is simply www.canady.leadershipgroup.com. That's Canady, Canady, leadershipgroup.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Kennedy Leadership Group on LinkedIn. And we can begin to engage with one another, discuss this more and more, and sharpen the leadership skills, around the world. And I would just say, for someone that is wondering about this, just think about this. If you were working for someone that you truly trusted completely, that you knew you could go to and talk about a sensitive matter, and you knew that you wouldn't be judged, that you would get some support, and you would feel heard. If you were working for someone that you knew valued you as a whole person, that honestly cared about how you show up as a husband or how you show up as a mother as well, and cares about you and the things that you value, wouldn't you work harder for that person? Wouldn't you want that person to be successful and give your absolute best so that that person is successful, right? Wouldn't you want to stay working for that person a lot longer? If you said yes to all of those questions, then what you're saying is that you would be positively impacted by intrusive leadership. And if you would be positively impacted by intrusive leadership, then why wouldn't you want to positively impact someone with intrusive leadership? So that's all you really need to know to decide whether this is something that you want to look into.
All right. Thank you, Marcus. I really appreciate your time today. And yes, we'll call it an episode. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.